St. Louis City SC has been hard at work this year to beef up its attack, but up until this point, that attack has lacked one key element that Aaron Opoku could provide.
Greasy, fast speed!
This is your soccer zombie, Tom Franklin, with a look at another potential newcomer to St. Louis from the land of sauerkraut, schnitzel, and the second Bundesliga, where Lutz Pfannenstiel and company appear ready to raid once again for talent, this time in the form of Aaron Opoku. Florian Plettenberg, who has become a must-follow for St. Louis City fans lately, broke on December 6th that Opoku has verbally agreed with St. Louis City SC. He's a pending free agent this coming summer, and the only question left is if Kaiserslautern will let him go now for an estimated 250,000 to 350,000 euros, or will let him walk in the summer. Manuel Veth, who has been a must-follow since the inaugural City Park match against Bayer Leverkusen in 2022, says it's now or never for St. Louis, as Lutz might not wait until the summer like he did with Cedric Teuchert this year. You can catch up on the Teuchert transfer saga with Hannover 96 in my previous video that I put out this past summer to get an understanding of why maybe St. Louis wants to avoid that this time around. But how does Opoku differ from not just other German signings St. Louis has made, but anyone on the roster currently? First, we need to look at Opoku's career to this point and maybe look at a reason why St. Louis might be buying low on him. Opoku is of Ghanaian descent and was born in Hamburg in 1999. He signed with Hamburg's youth academy as a 12-year-old and stayed with the club until he was 23 years old, though he only got 4 games with the main roster during his 11-year tenure with the club. That's because he was loaned out for 3 straight seasons after a stint with the Hamburg second club. The club was keen on getting him senior action, but didn't have a spot for him on their main roster as a 19-year-old, so his first loan was to Hansa Rostock in the third Liga. And he had an impressive 2019-20 campaign for Rostock, contributing towards 11 goals in 33 matches and playing regular minutes. His performance even earned him 6 caps for the German under-20s, with him even scoring a goal against Poland. And before you ask, no, he did not play with any of the German under-21s that currently are on the St. Louis roster. But next season, Opoku would make the leap to the Zweite Bundesliga as a 20-year-old, and it may have been more than he could handle at the time. He'd only played 21 games for Jahn Regensburg the following season, contributing toward 3 goals and often coming off the bench and not even being in the club's squad more often than not in the final months. After his loan ended, Regensburg's managing director praised Opoku's potential in this article by Ghana's SoccerNet, but also expressed concerns about his consistency. Up until this point, Opoku had played exclusively in the Zweite Bundesliga, but next season he would take a loan down a level to the third Liga, where he would play with Osnabrück, and that may have been what he needed. He'd have a sparkling season for Osnabrück with 18 goal contributions in 32 games, including 15 assists, and getting the most playing time in his career. It was also here where Opoku would go a bit viral for this kick that he made against an opposing player. He got grabbed by an opposing player in transition, the ref signaled advantage, but then Opoku unleashed his inner Bruce Lee and quickly got a red and a trip to the locker room. Because like in hockey, it's never the initial foul, it's always the retaliation that gets called. With Opoku seemingly ready to return to regular Zweite Bundesliga minutes, Hamburg instead opted to sell him to Kaiserslautern for 200,000 euros. The Southwest German club had just been promoted from 3 Liga and was looking to bolster its attack. He's been used as a rotational option with Kaiserslautern the past 2.5 seasons. In 2022-23, he had 6 goal contributions and just over 1,000 minutes spread across 20 matches. Last year, 5 goal contributions in 23 matches, just under 900 minutes played, in part because he missed a month with a patella tendon issue. But this season looked very promising for Opoku. He'd have 5 goal contributions in his first 5 matches this season. He was getting regular starting minutes and looked to be well on his way to a breakout season. But then he got hurt in training. He would miss 4 games with the adductor injury and has not really gotten back into the swing of things at the time of this recording, despite returning to the squad at the start of November. And that's where we find ourselves today. Opoku's story so far? fairly straightforward, at least compared to some of the other signings St. Louis has made this year. Marcel Hartl, Cedric Teuchert, Jonas Horn, Timo Baumgartel, all of those guys went through career arcs at some point. All of them had hype behind them at some point, real hype that got them on the German under-21s playing together. All were fairly established at some point in their careers, and all four of these guys definitely know each other very well. Opoku is really none of that, at least relative to them. He feels like a player that has been waiting for a breakout opportunity and might have had one this year if not for injury. Some prospects do take more time to get sorted out, and despite some ups and downs over the years, Opoku was trending upwards this year. So you now know the general story of Opoku's career up until this point, but as always, analytics can reveal what Lutz and company see in a player. And in the case of Opoku, there's a lot to like when you look at the numbers. This graph from FBCharts, with data pulled from Opta and FBRef, compares Opoku to other attacking mids in Zweite Bundesliga over the last calendar year. And all that red and blue really jump out to me, even that one yellow sliver. It indicates a creative-minded player who likes to carry the ball into the box and take on defenders. And that more or less is the player Opoku is. Michael of Chat City Tactics is a must-follow in the St. Louis City soccer community and has evaluated Opoku based on video and charts like the one you just saw. I'll link to Chat City Tactics Substack in the description below. It's completely free, by the way, and bookmark it because it is a valuable resource. Michael notes that Opoku is taller at about 6'1". He only weighs about 160 pounds, but he's got a great first touch. He's great in transition, ideal for Berkey to target on counters. He's adept at beating defenders with both speed and flash, often beating multiple defenders at times, and is composed enough to know when to pull back and find an open man. Michael also notes that Opoku is often able to use those great physical tools to get into dangerous areas to find open players crashing into the box after him. And if that's sounding awfully familiar to you, you're probably getting flashbacks to Joseph Paintzel abusing poor Anthony Markanek earlier this season. Let's face it, guys, Markanek wasn't the same after this one. Or maybe you're thinking of how Denis Bouanga typically abuses MLS defenders. FBRef is apparently, he's Opoku's top comparable player over the last year. And if you look at this chart, tell me these players aren't cut from the same cloth. Now, Denny does like to pull the trigger a bit more, while Opoku's a bit more of a progressive passer, but everything else here, extremely similar. It's quite frightening, actually, but it's also quite exciting. But this doesn't necessarily mean we are signing a Denis Bouanga clone. Remember that guy in Jahn Regensburg that said Opoku was inconsistent? Remember the injuries over the past couple of seasons? A lot has to happen for Opoku to even reach Bouanga's stratosphere, but the analytics show that he's at least got that in his toolbox. It's up to him to put it together. Can it happen in St. Louis, though? And another question is, how does he fit into Olaf Melberg's tactical plans, assuming that this Opoku deal gets across the finish line? For one, Opoku is a right-footed shot who is more comfortable playing out on the left wing. In some ways, he seems like a faster Celio Pompeu, and I can see those two rotating, with Hartl moving to more of a central role. It was mentioned a few times how the preference is Hartl playing more as a 10 down the middle than as a winger, which he kind of played in 2024 out of necessity. It's also been noted that Olaf likes to play multiple formations as the situation dictates. I do see the club, however, using Opoku's speed and keeping him out on the wings once again. Does Hartl move more centrally to the 10, and does Teuchert maybe become a true underlapping striker under Klaus? Does Hartl move to the center mid role and shunt Edouard Leuven over to a more of a 6 role? Does Opoku get pulled late in the game for a wingback like Jay Reed for a more defensive look? All these scenarios are possibilities, especially since we haven't even seen Olaf Melberg in action yet. We don't know what exactly he's going to roll out. In fact, he might not know what he's going to roll out yet, because he needs to get into the training room and into practices with these players to figure out exactly what he's got. So don't be surprised if starting out this season, Olaf Olaf looks a bit like a mad scientist trying to figure out how to use all these tools, whether Aaron Opoku is there or not. But adding Opoku to the wings really stabilizes the attack for St. Louis that has had issues with depth, especially this past year. I didn't even mention Rasmus Alm and Indiana Vasilev out on the right. Nukvi Thorson plays out wide as well. Where does he fit in going forward? Makai Joyner made a case for some playing time on the main roster this past season with an electric City 2 season. In fact, Joyner now has a big roster contract now, so how does St. Louis use Joyner going forward, especially with all these weapons now on offense? And of course, Opoku and Kaiserslautern still need to sign on the dotted line for this deal to happen, so all this could be moot. Let me know what you think of Aaron Opoku. Did we find another diamond in the rough? Do we now have Denis Bouanga at home? Or are you concerned he hasn't really proven himself even at the Zweite Bundesliga level until this season? And I'm looking to do a lot more away day vlogs next season of US games. MLS, USL, NWSL. I might even dip into some lower league US content this coming year. Details to come on that. And thanks to Ethan Thornton, the newest member of the 99 Cent Supporters section, for helping me get to all these games. And another reason I'm mentioning Ethan is because he is a host of the St. Louis City Boys podcast, and I was just a guest on the show. We had a lot of fun talking about one of my favorite subjects, kits. The greatest right back to ever play the game. Zero arguments. Cafu.
Wow. What a
Y'all
player.
don't know Cafu, look him up. Look, every position has their argument for who's the best of all time. Who's the best of all time? You can come out and say Cafu, GOAT, and few people would argue that. He and Roberto Carlos, probably the best left back, right back partnership of all time for Brazil. I have a new short series called Corner Kit, where I highlight some of the kits I own and tell the story of the kits themselves or of the clubs they represent. And because every kit has a story, you can find those here on YouTube or on my Instagram and TikTok. Well, until it's banned here in America anyway. This is your soccer zombie, Tom Franklin here, and no matter what you think of Opoku, you can agree that this video was a lot more straightforward than my last transfer video, that of fellow winter signing Timo Baumgartel, which you can click on that video right here. Timo has had quite the story in his career, and it needed over 20 minutes to unpack. He had a failed big money transfer, he played on a dumpster fire of a club, and he beat cancer. Cancer!